Happy Monday and welcome to episode 30 of the Matt Sager podcast. I know, I said I was going to stop with the numbering, and I am, but episode 30 feels like a milestone of sorts. Is it maybe the bronze anniversary? Bronze and a half? Bronze with a little bit of rust? What I'm saying is we've reached a milestone together, and I couldn't have done it without all your support, and thank you so very, very much. It means a lot to me, as would you subscribing to the podcast on your provider of choice. And if your app, service, directory, however you get podcasts is not carrying the MSP, as we're now going to call the Matt Sager podcast, let them know you want them to carry it. And in the meantime, if you are subscribed, leave me reviews and leave me ratings, ideally 5 stars. But look, you've got some constructive criticism, I will certainly take it. And if I think there's validity to it, I will take you up on your suggestions. And if they improve the show, I'll give you a shout out and credit you with having improved the Matt Sager podcast. How do you like that? So, in addition to that, I'm going to make this a brief episode tonight dedicated entirely to questions from you, or as I've been calling it,
what's in the box?
What's in my box? That box being matt@mattsager.com, my email box. Let's see. Couple questions. Sam from Utica, were you really, he's referencing my Captain Marvel show from last week. Were you really that scared of reviewing the Captain Marvel trailer? Yeah. I don't know how much time you spend on the comic or geek or whatever you want to call it, internet, but again, the origins of this are quite murky. I do think some of this was at one point the corporations wagging the dog and giving a voice to these hateful people, and in so doing, both drawing attention and attracting controversy that gets them headlines for their projects, and then also further delegitimizing anyone who's got anything negative to say about any of their films, comics, etc. Because all you see now on the internet are like Big Bang Theory level, geek out, almost autistic. Oh my God, Marvel has a new product. I've become incontinent, urinary, and also my bowels. I can't contain myself with excitement. OMG, OMG, squiggle, squiggle, squee. And then on the other side is this group of people who are terrifying. Oh, Marvel has a woman in a film, and a woman is a character, and they also have women writers. It's a big conspiracy because they're all out to get the president, and here's a list of all their home addresses, and let's do a harassment campaign. I mean, these people are psychotic. And it's worth pointing out that, I was nonplussed by the trailer. I do think Captain Marvel as a character has been given short shrift in the comics, and I was hoping and really expecting for much better in the films. She is going to be the main character as far as I know. She's going to take over for Captain America and Iron Man as at least one of what will be a few new leading characters in the next phase of Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so that trailer was a little bit meh. It's not a conspiracy, and it looks fine. It looks like Thor, which, ultimately time passed and we got Thor Ragnarok, we got the Avengers. The character did get well treated in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but his first outing, and especially his second outing, were duds. And I would have hoped that Captain Marvel would get something better. And she might. But the trailer that launched does not convince me that her first film's going to be spectacular. That said, I'm really enthused about it. I'm really excited that a woman is going to be leading the way and that the Marvel Universe is evolving. It's time. I hope they stick the landing. And yeah, to not land on either side of, everything Marvel's the best. I love it, I love it, I love it. I've got no mind of my own. And to also not go, so apparently there's women in Marvel and, those SJWs are at it again. Like, it shouldn't be that kind of fine line where you're either one level of psychotic person or another level. Yeah, as far as I was concerned that night, I was walking a tightrope. But I've spoken with both fans, those who were very enthused by the trailer, and those who shared my opinion or even thought less of it. And I've spoken with people on the creative end, and I managed to not offend anyone. But yes, it was quite tense for me, to be totally honest with you. Frank from Rahway asks, oh boy, this is going to be a whole other episode, Frank. Just FYI, but I will address it. What was the Matt Sager totally intense, in-your-face, thumb-twitching, joystick vibrating, something else video game show? That was a thing from before there were podcasts. To be totally honest with you, that show was probably the main reason why it took me as long as it did for me to start a podcast after my last job as a disc jockey. Like you would think, I leave radio, do a podcast. But something happened in between to traumatize me, to make me think, computers and radio broadcasting do not mesh. And that thing was the Matt Sager video game show on eYada.com. It was an early iteration of what they then called internet radio, and it was started by Dave Herman, not the UFC fighter, but the former disc jockey who's no longer with us. He's passed away. Although, interestingly enough, he was working with Bob Meyerowitz, several people who were involved with UFC, MMA, Ultimate Fighting. It was like he was the brains and they were the bank. The thing is, counting on Dave Herman as the brains, that's a critical flaw in your formula right there. That was the beginning of what would be many, many problems for me in my short tenure as a broadcaster at eYada. It was called Internet Radio. It was before broadband was ubiquitous, and it offered all the charm of radio with all the inconvenience of having to sit down at a gigantic, slow, clunky desktop to listen. And it was a little bit like the pets.com of podcasting. The ideas would eventually bear fruit, and the show that I was hosting, the Matt Sager in-your-face, thumb-twitching, joystick-vibrating, everything else show, was basically Twitch before there was Twitch, and it was not without its good times. My fondest memory of that show was they sent me to E3, and it was the time of Tony Hawk. And I got to play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater with Tony Hawk and beat him. I'll have to find the audio of that if it still exists. The other thing that's quite weird about that show that I'm willing to discuss now, the rest of it is really an episode unto itself, because it was crazy. But the other thing that was really weird about that show, it was like 99, 2000, 2001, this very weird period. And because the idea was that you were going to be able to play games with me, like Half-Life and Halo and Counter-Strike, the service advertised, you can play online with Matt. And for reasons that I'll delve into when we do this show, the IT department either couldn't, or I would go so far as to say intentionally failed at making this possible. So in like the New York Times, they were running articles about, you can play games online with Matt Sager. And yeah, every day I would show up to work and that just simply wasn't true. I stopped recording promos promising that you could do that because it was, look, the one thing I will not give up is my integrity. And I was not going to do promos saying, yeah, you can play online with me when I knew that tech support was garbage at what was once known as eYada.com. The website still exists, but it's just one of the guys who was involved, some IT guy who helped sink my show and sabotage the entire company, runs it as like a news aggregator to get like AdSense dollars. But once upon a time, there was a real belief amongst investors and programmers and hosts like me that it could have been a thing. But in the absence of that, my producer, Steve Koresh, understood that I needed to get guests in there. Because, look, I was doing a talk show, and I couldn't fulfill my premise of playing video games with my listeners. So we looked for guests who were sort of cool, sort of rock and roll, and who would at least discuss video games with me. And there was an up-and-coming group that was really, these guys were so nice. In the 3 months that I think I did this show, I probably had them on 5 times. They were so eager and willing to stop by, help out, have fun, talk games, play a song or two. And I've always been grateful to them, and I feel a little guilty about some of the things I've seen and laughed about these guys since then, because that band, the people who helped make the Matt Sager Show bearable for me, that kept me from quitting for as long as I did, was a band you may know as Nickelback. You might have heard of them. They're really nice guys. I'm not going to say anything about their music at the time, since I'm just saying they kept me sane, and I've always appreciated them for that. And I've always appreciated the irony that, yeah, Nickelback helped me through a hard time. They're good guys. They really are, if they're anything like they were 18 years ago. Joan in New Hampshire asks, did I sign up for DC Universe? DC Universe. That would be the streaming service that offers digital comics, DC movies, television shows, animated series. Mostly, as of launch time, I think it's all old content, and it's weird. It's mixed. There's Batman the Animated Series. Look, yes, the answer is yes. I tried it for a week, and I saw that they had Batman the Animated Series seasons 1 through 3, but they didn't have season 4. They had The Dark Knight, but they didn't have any episodes of Smallville. Their comic selection was weird and sort of haphazard and ultimately very small. And I thought about, like, all right, they've launched early. Listen, the first episodes of The Matt Sager Show are not astonishing. They're me going, all right, let's test the water, see how people respond. And I get the sense that that's what DC is doing doing with their sort of early launch of DC Universe. And there are a few reasons why, after my 7-day trial expired, I didn't sign up for a subscription. The main reason, the most important reason, is that after launch, they walked back a few of their promises, in particular that they would have their service available on the Amazon Fire TV. I don't know why that is, but I'm not going to change the hardware I use to watch video just to test out DC's new streaming service. That, again, is comprised entirely of content I have, has no comics that I don't have, has like 30 comics in total the last time I checked. And as far as original content, I'm going to wait and see what people say about it when it finally debuts, which I think is next month. We're going to see the first original content from DC Universe, which is the Titans, the trailer that people have seen and that have mostly commented on this line uttered by Robin.
Fuck Batman.
Yeah, let's hear that one more time.
Fuck Batman.
That sort of half Christian Bale voice, that fuck Batman coming right after he throws a Robin Rang, whatever you call his R-shaped Batarang things, that don't look aerodynamic at all, but which he somehow, without even looking, tosses at a guy and, like, cuts off one of the arteries in his knee, gets another guy in his neck. Raven does not look very... Raven looks like a Hot Topic commercial. Beast Boy looks okay. Starfire... Look, I survived Captain Marvel, so I'm not going to comment on Starfire. I'm just going to leave it alone and say that as far as original content goes, it looks promising, but it also looks like it's a wait-and-see thing. I'm going to want to hear what people have to say about it. I'm going to want to see some more preview clips as they get closer to launch of original content on YouTube. Going to want to hear from the creators themselves, and then I want to know why they're not making the service available on the Amazon Fire TV. If this is some shenanigans that has to do with the fact that Comixology, which they've sort of avoided making their comics available for Comixology Unlimited. Comixology is owned by Amazon. I'm so sick of shenanigans between big content providers and Apple making it difficult for you to watch their videos on Amazon TV, Amazon TV making it difficult to watch their videos on Apple TV, the Roku sort of being the best all-around player, but it's not what I have. And I'm not going to get a Roku just for the Titans or for anything else that DC Universe is offering right now. In the future, quite possibly. Although I would like to think that by that future, they'll have figured out why, A, pre-launch, they announced that they would be available for the Amazon Fire TV, and B, that there'll be an explanation as to why they're not available now, or maybe they'll have gotten all the kinks worked out, and maybe this is just one of them, that for whatever reason, the Amazon Fire TV API is incompatible with whatever DC Universe has on offer right now. My point is that it looks very, very promising, but it also looks like an alpha release, and I have so many of these little micro subscriptions. I do subscribe to Marvel Unlimited, which is a very different thing. It's not meant for streaming. It's meant for your iPad, your Android tablets. It's just comics. And I'm already paying for that, and I'm paying for Comixology Unlimited, and I was very, very willing to pay for what DC Universe billed itself as pre-launch. And I appreciate that they gave me a 7-day trial to kick the tires, see what they have, and a lot of it is really, really promising. But again, between the lack of hardware support, the intermittent content, the lack of any original content yet, and the fact that the jury is still out on that original content means I'm just not ready for it yet. But please keep me apprised, and if you're a subscriber, let me know. In fact, I'd love to know whether you're a subscriber, whether you plan to subscribe, whether or not you also subscribe to Marvel Unlimited, Comixology Unlimited like me. So I'll do a little poll on SurveyMonkey and post a link to that in the description for this episode. So thank you very much, as always, for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. Contact me, ask me what's in my box, or ask me anything at all. Email matt@mattsager.com, call 646-535-4788. Hit me up on social media while you're at it. Twitter is @MattSager, Instagram, Real Matt Sager, Facebook, The Matt Sager. My voiceover page there is Matt Sager VO, and this podcast's page is Matt Sager Podcast. And for more of those social media links, my contact information, voiceover reels, articles, blog posts, archives of the show, and a whole lot more, check out mattsagervoiceover.com.